the above are the 10 benefits of taking refuge. And now so far we have talked about the meaning of refuge taking and also the benefit of refuge taking. And we've also discussed the different kinds of triple gem as well as their metaphors. Now it's time for us to discuss some of the questions or queries which people may have regarding refuge taking. And the first question which people often ask before they decide to take refuge is, do I have to become a vegetarian after I take refuge? And the answer will be no. You do not have to become a vegetarian just because you decide to take refuge in the Triple Gem and to become a Buddhist. In fact, it's only a dietary choice for Buddhists if they want to observe vegetarianism. But they are not required to do so at the level of refuge taking. And furthermore, a very important reason to why Buddhists observe vegetarianism is for them to nurture their compassionate minds. For example, by observing vegetarianism, you show your respect to other lives. And at the same time, you are also extending that compassionate mind to the rest of the sentient beings. Therefore, that's a very basic reason to why we observe vegetarianism. But it is never a requirement for you if you want to become a Buddhist. Therefore, please bear this in mind. And another question would be, after I take refuge, can we still show respect to gods or deities of other religions? And the answer is, of course you can. Why? When you take refuge in the Triple Gem, you are taking an oath. You're vowing to regard the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha as your teacher. But this does not mean that you cannot pay respect to the gods or deities of other religions. Because Buddhism is a religion of equality and tolerance. We're not trying to become hypocrites over here. And so based on the concepts of equality and tolerance, of course, it would be nice and sometimes it would be a necessary gesture for you to show your respect to other religions. For example, as a Buddhist, of course, you can still visit churches and go to the temples of other religions. And when you go in, sometimes you may be required to show a certain gesture to display your respect. And I think that's perfectly normal, so you don't have to worry too much about this, especially to the Chinese who have a background of worshipping ancestors. It's a family tradition, it's a Chinese tradition, and just because you have become a Buddhist, it doesn't mean that you have to deny your background or your cultural customs. And so it's perfectly alright for you to still make offerings of incense or flowers or food to your ancestors. And now for a third question, is taking refuge the simple act within a single moment? And while the refuge ceremony itself may only be temporary, say it goes on for about 2 or 3 hours, but the oath which you take during the ceremony will be something to show that you have vowed to follow the Buddha for lifetimes after lifetimes. Therefore, refuge taking itself is not temporary because it is an act for you to choose a lifetime religious belief. So you have chosen this for yourself for the rest of your life. And other questions include, do we have to worship Buddhist monastics once we take refuge? Although you don't have to worship them, and sometimes it is still necessary for you to respect monastics because they are the third of the Triple Gem, the Sangha Gem. And so showing respect and worshipping are two very different things, although we do not worship human beings in Buddhism in particular. showing respect to all sentient beings is still a very important part of our practices. And there is a very common mistake among Buddhists after they take refuge, which is many of them tend to only respect one of the triple gem. For example, they may only choose to respect the Buddha gem or only the Dharma gem. But this is not correct, because we need to regard the triple gem as a whole, not as three separate things. Therefore, if we choose to respect one, we should also choose to respect the other two. Remember, we've talked about how the establishment of a Sangha community can only be accomplished through the fusion of the triple gem. Therefore, each of the triple gem are as important as the other, and they are as equal as the other. This is something which all of us need to bear in mind. And after briefly discussing these questions, and I hope I have cleared some of your confusions regarding refuge taking or becoming a Buddhist. And now you may wonder a bit of what taking refuge in the triple gem will be like. What does the ceremony actually involve? And due to limited time, let's quickly go through the main procedures. But of course, the important point for us to remember is that when we volunteer or when we show willingness to take refuge in the triple gem, it actually has to come from the deepest parts of our hearts. And therefore, by becoming a part of the ceremony, it actually provides the right conditions for us to make our resolves and vows much stronger. So while it may take a small amount of time for us to take refuge, from this very small amount of time, we are actually gaining endless protections from the Buddha. And the Buddha's blessings will also stay with us throughout our future lifetimes. And when we take refuge in the triple gem, in a way, we are also developing a relationship with the Buddha. And this is a connection or relationship that will go on for a very, very long time. Remember, if we use a filthy container to draw water from a clear spring, we still cannot get a clean or fresh water resource for us to drink from. And this is similar for us in taking refuge in the triple gem. It's similar to that. And if we do so with a mind full of doubt or defilement or even pride, we will actually never get the full benefit of our acts in refuge taking. Therefore, for this reason, the Sutra of Great Names says that all who take refuge in the triple gem should first clear their minds by acts of repentance, and then with reverence and purity of mind. They should press their palms together and kneel before the Buddha as they make their promise. Usually they will repeat the following lines 3 times, but here I will only say them once. And the following is what you actually say during a refuge ceremony. I, as a disciple of the Buddha, take refuge in the Buddha until my bodily form is extinguished. The Buddha is worthy of my respect, because he is both virtuous and wise. I take refuge in the Dharma until my bodily form is extinguished. The Dharma is worthy of my respect, because it teaches us how to overcome desire. And finally, I take refuge in the Sangha until my bodily form is extinguished. The Sangha is worthy of my respect, because it is the center of the Buddha's community. From this we can see that the act of taking refuge in the triple gem is our first act of consciously and willingly moving towards full awakening in the enlightened mind. For this reason, it is very important to take refuge in a ceremony conducted by a properly ordained monastic. This is very important. Please bear this in mind. And during this ceremony, we will voice our vows to indicate clearly that we're taking refuge in each of the 3 aspects of the triple gem, which are the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And today we have very briefly discussed and explore the meanings and the significance of taking refuge in the Triple Gem. To sum up what we have said so far, we can put it simply by saying that the Buddha is like a doctor, while the Dharma is the medicine, and the Sangha becomes the nurse. Together, when we put these three together, they will offer us the right directions and guidance towards the path of Buddhahood, and also liberation from suffering and delusion. Therefore, by discussing the meaning and the significance of the Triple Gem, I hope I have cleared some of your hesitations or queries about refuge taking. Therefore, any one of you will always be welcome to join us on the path of Buddhahood by taking refuge in the Triple Gem. Finally, to end this lesson, let's do a quick revision of what we have talked about today. And the term which we have discussed today is the Triple Gem. And the Triple Gem consists of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And remember, by taking refuge in the Buddha, it is like building a power plant within your mind where you can find light and energy. While by taking refuge in the Dharma, it will be like constructing a waterworks in our mind, which cleanses our minds and quenches our thirst for the truth. And finally, by taking refuge in the Sangha, it will be like finding a field of merits within our mind. And over this field of merits, we can grow all kinds of things to create or to build a better future. So thank you for joining us today, and I hope you have enjoyed today's lesson. We'll see you next time.